Hello everyone, Zach here from the Carnival of Randomness on behalf of our sponsor, Upsitnik & Associates. In these unprecedented times, we reflect on our future, both in the next few weeks and months, but also the upcoming years and decades. And it's time to prepare for that future. Upsitnik & Associates has been contacted by many healthcare workers, as well as old and new clients, to prepare wills, powers of attorney, and advance directives, also called a living will. All of you need these documents, so don't say you don't have any assets to speak of, no children or other dependents. Regardless of the circumstances now, you will need a will for today and tomorrow. Al Upsitnik feels so strongly about having wills and other needed documents prepared that Upsitnik & Associates can prepare your will, power of attorney, and living will at no charge, you heard that correct, no charge until the end of 2020. No hidden fees or gimmicks. Al feels so strongly about planning for the future at this time that he is willing to assist you with your future. Trust Upsitnik & Associates, attorneys for 42 years, from the Supreme Court to Alaska and everywhere in between. You can find them online, upsitnikslaw.com, on Facebook, Upsitnik & Associates, or call them toll-free 1-866-391-3299 to prepare for your future. Hello, everybody. Back again, once again, with the Carnival of Randomness. I know that was a bit redundant, but what are you going to do? I am Zach. Rye, the football fan, is back with us.
Hello.
And piggybacking off last week's episode, even though we're about 5 minutes out from recording it, continuing our NFL season in three-quarter review, we're going to talk NFC this time. And again, as we record this, it is the Friday before the Week 12 Sunday game, so a week is going to have gone by from our talking about the NFC teams to what is actually happening.
Yeah, I just want to talk more football.
Well, exactly. We want to talk more football, so I can't think of a better way than to jump right in to talk about some professional football than by talking about the NFC East.
Yeah.
So as we stand right now, coming off of the Thanksgiving games, you have at the top of the NFC East in Week 12 the 4-7 Washington football team, the 3-6-1 Eagles, 3-7 Giants, 3-8 Cowboys because they got their asses beat by Washington on Thanksgiving. Let's just address the elephant in the room. I am completely appalled by the NFC East as a division and the teams inside it.
Pretty much. I mean,
I am appalled by the possibility, or not even the possibility, that one of these teams will be in the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, with probably a worse than 8-8 record.
Oh, there's going to be a sub-500 team, not just in the playoffs, but the fact is they will be a division winner.
Yep.
So we'll get the number 4 seed in the playoffs. Which means they will host a goddamn playoff game with a sub-500 record. And that bothers me.
At this point, it's kind of hilarious. I mean, they're the comedy division.
They are. They're comedy, but weirdly, they've had some of the more exciting games.
Yeah, well, there is that, right?
You know, the game on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, it was Washington and Dallas. And first off, big props to Alex Smith for coming back.
Well, that's why I'm all right with, if Washington takes the division.
No, that's fine, but...
I mean, it still kind of sucks that they'll do it with such a terrible record, but it's hard not to root for Alex at this point.
Well, that and Coach Ron, beating kids.
Well, exactly. The two of them sort of make it more acceptable than if it was, say, the Eagles or the Giants.
Or the goddamn Giants.
Because they don't sort of have either of those storylines going for them.
No, they don't have a guy who a year prior damn near lost his leg.
Yeah, who had his leg nearly torn off, or a guy beating cancer.
Yeah, and whereas they're both thriving, so big ups to them. But looking at this division, I knew it was going to be a rough division coming into this season.
Yeah.
I didn't think that at Week 12 the division leader would be 4-7.
No, and I thought it would be the Cowboys.
Yeah, so let's start at the bottom of the tank division. Look at Dallas. What the hell is wrong with Dallas?
I think it goes, obviously, beyond just losing Dak. I mean, obviously, that's a huge thing, but again, it's Dallas. It's Jerry. It's always going to be Jerry.
You're right, and that's been his MO since as long as any of us can remember.
Since he bought the team.
Yeah, basically since he owned the team and ran Tom Landry out of town on a rail.
And replaced him with Jimmy Johnson, who he ran out of town.
On a rail, yeah, exactly. And that's his MO. He gets a coach, and he's had some stellar coaches. You know, Tom Landry is one of the measuring sticks for an NFL coach.
Jimmy Johnson going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson rightfully taking his place finally in the Hall of Fame this year, or this past year, I should say.
You just can't back off, and that's almost never works. Any coach or any owner who's too involved.
Especially if they get a headstrong coach who's going to fight back. Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells.
Exactly.
They are what they are. They're headstrong because they know they're good coaches, and when they get an owner that wants to interfere, there's going to be a clash.
Well, especially since they know it's going to make it worse.
Exactly, and in the clash of the coach versus the owner, guess who usually wins?
Exactly. It's always the owner, but, at a cost.
Exactly, and that's the Cowboy problem.
So, yeah, I think they're going to continue to have problems just because Jerry cannot back off.
Right.
And I think his tinkering is a problem. His sort of just the coaching situation is a problem.
Oh, man, it's just... I'm sorry, I like McCarthy, but Jesus.
Yeah, I don't think this is the right fit for him or the team.
Well, let's bump up a step. Let's look at the Giants. You know what I think part of the Giants' problem is?
What's that?
Was losing Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, that really hurt them.
I mean, that guy is a talent.
That's 98% of the team there.
Exactly. That would be like Tennessee losing Derrick Henry.
He was basically carrying that team.
Yeah, so it's no wonder they're sitting at 3-7. Daniel Jones has been playing half decent, though.
Yeah, but you just kind of expected them to be about where they are.
Yeah. The Eagles, 3-6-1. I expected them to be bad because, and as this season has really proved, Carson Wentz really isn't that great a quarterback. And his offensive line isn't helping him. He's getting his ass kicked left and right.
Yeah, so again, you kind of expected them to be terrible, and they are terrible.
Yeah. And then Washington, I don't really know what I expected.
No, because, obviously it started off with, not with Alex.
Was it Haskins?
Kyle Allen?
Or
whatever.
Why do I always think it's Dwayne Haskins?
Yeah, what's your Dwayne Haskins thing?
I don't know. But yeah, so you look at that division, you know one team's going to make the playoffs, and that's going to be about it. You're not really expecting much from that division, and that's just, in my opinion, rather unfortunate.
Yeah, but like I say, for me personally, if Washington wins the division, if they go to the playoffs, as bad as it probably is for the league as a whole to allow a team to go in with a losing record, I just won't be angry because,
It's Alex Smith.
This may be the last year for Alex and Ron to be involved with football.
And if they somehow make the playoffs and he takes the field in that division game, or the wild card game rather, and chances are they would lose, as long as he was able to walk off the field, give the man comeback player of the year.
That's it.
That's all I'm saying. There's no doubt in my mind that if he can walk off the field at the end of at the end of the Washington season, regardless of when it is, he's earned it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't mind that so much. I'd be happy for them, and if they, if one or both retires, then that's a cool way for them to go out.
Exactly. I think it would probably be Alex Smith going first before Ron.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Yep, we're going to flop over the NFC West. And this is a strangely competitive division.
Yeah, but
just
not
in the way I thought it would be.
Yeah, not with the former Super Bowl team.
Yeah, so you got, up at the top of the division, you got the Rams at 7-3, tied with the Seahawks at 7-3. Trailing right behind them, the Cardinals at 6-4, and the 49ers sitting in the basement at 4-6. The 49ers, they've just had terrible injury luck this year.
Yeah, that's you can't even really say it's the Super Bowl hangover because just basically everybody's crippled on
Yeah,
their
I mean,
team.
Garoppolo's out. They've got Nick Mullins at quarterback. Bosa's out. I can't remember. No, Nick Bosa plays for San Francisco. Joey Bosa plays for San Diego. No, L.A., the Chargers.
Yeah,
But he
so
went
that's
down, what, week 2 or 3 with the knee?
yeah, so that's kind of nobody can control that. It's just unfortunate luck.
That's just unfortunate, just terrible, terrible luck. And I think that's their problem. That's why they're 4-6.
Well, that's it. I think they'd be a lot more competitive, obviously, if they had their guys.
Yeah, even if it was Garoppolo was back. I don't know. The
Seahawks.
Well, here, the Cardinals. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't 100% sold on Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
He's not playing bad football.
No, he's not.
The one game I look at, and we've talked about this when we were having our 2-minute drill conversation. The fact that in the game against Seattle a few weeks ago, when in the final offensive drive of the game for the Cardinals, they walked down the field to tie the game and win it in overtime.
Yeah.
They can play some football.
They definitely can. They're actually doing better than they have in quite a few years.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were 5-10-1 last year, 3-13 in 2018.
Jesus.
The last time they've really been good was 2015, where they went 13-3.
Now they're coming back and they're playing pretty solid football.
Yeah, so that's been kind of neat to watch. I mean, obviously everybody pulls for Larry.
Oh, yeah, I mean, and that's a thing a lot of people are going to forget is, Larry Fitzgerald came into the NFL in 2004 with Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers and Matt Schaub.
Yeah.
He is one of the old guard.
Mm-hmm.
Languished his entire career with the Cardinals. They had that one trip to the Super Bowl where they lost to the Steelers and haven't been able to do it since, and that was over a decade ago.
Yep. So it's kind of neat to see them doing well.
It is. It's good. And it's good to see. I always like it when you see other teams coming in.
Yeah.
Because you get tired of seeing the same teams over and over. When you see another team really starting to rise up, so that's why, you see the Colts doing well. You see the Titans doing well. You see the Raiders doing well.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it more in the in the NFC, because there's a couple teams that are playing well that kind of are unexpected, like the Cardinals, like the Rams. But let's look at the Seahawks.
About what I expected. They pretty much always play well.
Yeah, they play well. But they've had their moments when it's been like, I'm not 100% sold on them.
They're not playing great, but just in terms of sort of where they are in the division, I mean, they're a team that basically, they haven't had a losing record since 2011.
Right.
So almost their entire thing under Pete Carroll, they've been winning. It's kind of the Steelers thing.
Oh, you broke up a little bit. Can you repeat that?
It's kind of the Steelers thing. They just don't have losing records.
Yeah, and, let's not forget that, the worst record Tomlin has had since he took over was last year at 8-8.
So, Russell Wilson is, a really good quarterback. They have some really good players, so I expected them to be pretty much exactly where they are.
Yeah, and, who's the big receiver that's been doing well? Oh, DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
He's been playing well beyond what a lot of people thought he would be doing.
Exactly, so yeah, I figured they would probably either be first or second in the division, duking it out with San Fran.
That's what I thought. But the fact that they're sitting here right now duking it out with the Rams.
The Rams I did not expect.
No, and the fact that now you look at it come week 12, again, it's going to be week 13 by the time this airs, but right now for week 12, the Rams are a legitimate contender.
Yeah.
I did not see it coming.
No, they sort of came out of nowhere. I mean, nobody was exactly on the Jared Goff hype train.
Yeah, like he had some flashes of brilliance, but it looked like he would be kind of that
He looked more like he was about to be cut more than he was
like
about
that
to
mid-level
be
could get cut quarterback, but he's really turned it around. Their defense has been stepping it up. Aaron Donald is a freaking monster.
I mean, it was kind of the Josh Allen thing, right? Like, if he had not busted out with the Bills this year, he was about to be cut.
Exactly.
Like, so yeah, Goff just sort of seemed the fire was lit, and, he decided to fight for his career as a starter with that team.
Yeah, and I think he's doing a hell of a job with it.
Yeah.
He's really done a lot of good for that team, and they've played some tough games.
So that's been really neat to see.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're definitely a threat if they get into the playoffs for a lot of teams. Speaking of that, let's move up to the NFC North. One of the more storied historical divisions. So let's start at the top, go down, and then we'll talk about them, go back up.
Yeah.
You got the Pack leading the division at 7-3.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears at 5-5. The Vikings at 4-6. The Lions coming off the loss to Houston on Thanksgiving, sitting at 4-7. Detroit. I'm not really surprised that they're kind of down at the bottom because Detroit just has had awful luck for the past ever.
Well, that's it. I mean, again, you're kind of looking at a franchise that's struggled for quite a few years.
Yeah, I mean, it's been bad for the Lions the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, they were 3-12-1 last year. That's not good at all.
No, and the fact, they really haven't been the same since the 0-16 season.
Pretty much not. Matt Patricia, just not it at all.
No, and I think that everybody's starting to realize that Matt Patricia is not the way.
No, the coach they had before, Jim Caldwell, took them to the wild cards a couple of years.
Yeah, but Patricia's done not a whole hell of a lot.
No, they've been dead last both years. He's been there and dead last this year. So, yeah, clearly it's, bad coaching.
I think so. Because they've got some talent. They just can't really do much with it.
Yeah.
Let's bump up to the Vikings. 4-6, kind of where I thought they would be.
Yeah, they're kind of just, that's what they are.
Kirk Cousins, everybody seems to like him as a human being. Not a bad quarterback, but
they're one of these bipolar teams. They go up and then they crater, and then they go up and then they kind of crater.
Yeah, and that's kind of where they did. And with them losing basically their biggest offensive weapon to the Bills this past offseason, Diggs going out to Buffalo and actually playing exceedingly well in Buffalo.
Yeah, because if you look at them from 2015, 11-5, then down to 8-8, then they came back 13-3, then down to 8-7-1, and then last year they went 10-6. So this year they're cratering again.
Yeah, they're just there's not much consistency over the past several years in Minnesota.
They just can't seem to put sort of 2 good years back to back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is their crater year. It's the roller coaster. They had the up last year. Now they're going to have a down.
Exactly.
Next year, they'll probably go 10-6 or better.
Right, exactly. They'll go, if they move to the 17 game, they'll go 10-7, 11-6.
Yep.
Be up at the top.
And then the year after that, they'll crater again. It just seems to be what they do. And it doesn't seem to necessarily matter sort of who they have or whatever.
Yeah, they just go in weird, up and down cycles.
All right, the Bears.
I am shocked by the Chicago Bears. The fact of the matter is that as of right now, they're sitting at 5-5 and they're on a 4-game losing streak. I haven't been able to see many of their games, but watching some of the highlights.
Lowlights.
It just seems like the offense has given up.
Yeah.
Everybody was all excited for, the legend of Big Dick Nick coming in and taking over the reins for Trubisky, who's just not a good quarterback, it seems.
Yeah.
Even though he's going to get the start would have had the start this past week, but as we recorded on Sunday.
Yeah.
Their offense is just
terrible.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. They're terrible.
They really are. Yeah, just the play calling, and I don't know what's happened with Nick, but he's not it.
No, and like you said, what was that one game where they just could not gain positive yardage?
Yeah, I think that might have been last week's or the week before, but yeah, I was watching it and just their drives that just backwards, or zero, a drive for 0 yards, then the next one a drive for negative yards, then another zero. They could not get 2 yards to go forward.
Well, exactly. And when you have a drive that says like 3 plays, negative 2 yards, you're not going to win anything.
And they didn't.
No, they definitely did not.
I think that was their one against the Vikings, actually.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, it was just, and that was like the entire second half was like they just could not get anything going.
Right, and that was the same problem the Steelers had when they almost lost to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The offense couldn't do shit, and the defense was getting tired.
So.
And that's the sad part is you've got, Khalil Mack, one of the best linebackers in football right now, basically handcuffed because he's tired and constantly having to play, from behind.
Yeah, so it's... I'm guessing this will probably be the last season for Coach Matt Nagy.
I think in this offseason, I think you're going to see Nagy gone, Trubisky gone, probably Foles gone.
Yeah, Nagy's been there for 3 years.
They just struggled. Like, they've been on every year for the past 3 years. Since they got Khalil Mack, I kept saying they're going to turn it around. They're starting to build the pieces.
The first year he was there in 2018, it seemed like they did. They went 12-4. They were first in the division, and they went to the wild card, but then they lost.
Yeah, and then I thought, okay, this is the first step. And then last year they kind of slipped, and this year,
yeah,
they started out House of Fire. They were 5-1 at one point, but good God, have they tanked the past 4 or 5 weeks?
Yeah, so it looks like they'd be lucky to at this point end up 8-8 like last year.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle for them.
So that's kind of unfortunate.
It is, because I really thought that this was going to be the year that, Chicago was going to get it. But I firmly believe that they made a mistake in the offseason by not going after Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you about this back in March.
Yeah.
And I said, of all the teams out there, I feel that the best fit for Cam Newton would have been Chicago.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that ship sailed, and look what happened, and it's not worked out for either of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was my call. And then when they got Foles, it's like, okay, he's won a Super Bowl. He was a Super Bowl MVP. He can still play, but man, he is just off his game.
Yeah. All right, moving up.
Yeah, moving up to the Packers. And not long before we started recording this, you sent me that article from the NFL's website. It was, about Bruce Arians talking about Tom Brady, but we'll get to that in the next division.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it? The second part of the headline was the Packers are overrated?
Yeah, I think so.
And they kind of are, because, the running joke is, oh, here comes pissed off Aaron Rodgers, but pissed off Aaron Rodgers damn near lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they eked by 24-20, I believe.
Yeah, it was only the 4-point game, and then, Phillip Rivers came in there, but that wasn't Phillip Rivers. Who beat them last week?
The Packers?
Yeah.
It was Phillip Rivers. They played the Colts. They lost.
Right. It was
30.
Phil, and Phil came in and imposed his will on Green Bay.
Yeah, they lost 34-31.
Yeah, so I cannot figure Aaron Rodgers out. I especially as of late, it doesn't seem like he can string 2 really dominant games together.
Well, that's sort of it. Like he lost to the Vikings.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a close game, but still, it's the Vikings.
exactly. And it's the Vikings this year against the Packers, and that historically the Packers usually take them.
Yeah, the barely eking by the Jaguars.
Losing to the Colts.
Yeah, in spite of the Colts really trying hard to give that game to them.
Jesus God, they almost did, but no, but damn, and that's what I'm saying. I cannot damn well figure out Aaron Rodgers because when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, and then some days he shows up and almost plays almost like a Jameis Winston.
Yeah, like he's so, and for a guy that's in his 15th, 16th year,
Yeah, because he came in 05.
yeah, you shouldn't be saying he's really up and down by this point.
Yeah, so it's kind of. I knew they would lead the division because I think as a team and as a sort of franchise in terms of how they're run really well.
Yeah, I agree. They've always had pretty good management, and they're always pretty consistent. So you kind of expected them to be near
to
the
be able
top
to
or on the top.
compensate for sort of any little blips and blurps in terms of playing,
Yeah,
which is what they've done.
right.
They're considerably ahead of a division that is almost every other team is melting down and going backwards.
And that's pretty much what it is. Everybody in that division is on, as of right now, a losing streak, the longest one belonging to the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
But, Detroit's dropped 2 in a row. Vikings coming off a loss, and the Packers coming off the loss to the Colts. Last week, I don't know what they're going to do this week, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're 7-3 ahead of the next competition being 5-5 and going backwards,
right? When you have a 2-game lead and they've been regressing for the past 4 weeks,
I don't think they're too concerned. So yeah, I mean, I knew they would win the division, but I didn't expect Green Bay to drop the Vikings game and barely eke by the Jaguars.
Yeah, did not see that coming. All right. The last division, we got the NFC South. So at the top, you got New Orleans, sans Drew Brees, still sitting at 8-2. The Buccaneers at 7-4, and then tanks out to the Panthers at 4-7, and the Falcons at 3-7.
The Dirty Birds.
So let's talk about them. They're Dirty Birds.
Dirty Birds and Matty Ice.
Jesus God. They are laughable.
I was going to say meme status more than a football team.
I mean, for God's sake, how many leads did they blow this season? It's been 2 at least.
At least, yes.
And I'm shocked they're sitting at 3. I mean, I thought they would be better than 3-7.
Yeah, because again, you run into the thing where you think another team will mess up enough that they'll win because they put a lot of points on the board.
They do, but the problem is they give up a hell of a lot of points.
Yeah, well, that's the other problem. I mean, they put up 39 points in a loss to the Cowboys in week 2.
And there is the thing, if you're scoring 30 plus points a game and losing, something is off.
Yep.
To be honest, let's just call it like it is. They're not exactly known for holding on to leads.
Do we dare mention the 2 sacred numbers?
The old 28-3, yeah.
Yeah. And they just seem to not have learned, like they haven't been able to fix that.
No, they really just seem like they, the old stereotypical ostrich head in the sand is like, nope, if I don't see it, it's not happening.
Yeah, so you kind of expected them to be dead last.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, they're not going to be better than the Saints. With Tom Brady coming in, they were not likely to be better than the Buccaneers. And with Bridgewater going to the Panthers, you expected them to, that they're not going to be better than the Panthers.
Right, and like I say, at the start of the season, I did not see them at 3-7.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at their progression so far, I'm shocked they're 3-7. Let's put it that way. Because they
Exactly.
could very easily be another 0-10 or a 1-9 team.
Yeah, duking it out with the Jets.
Oh, God. That's not something anybody ever wants to hear about their career.
Eh.
All right, well, let's bump it up one game in the standings to the Panthers. Coming off losing Cam Newton, losing Ron Rivera. I thought with them signing Teddy Bridgewater, they'd be better than 4-7.
Yeah, I kind of hoped, again, I like Bridgewater, as a person, and it's always kind of exciting to see a guy who's kind of been in the shadows get a shot.
Oh, yeah, and, because when he was when he was backing up Drew last year, I mean, when he came in those games that Breeze was injured, he played well.
Yeah, so this was his chance, right? He finally got a team where he was going to be the starter, and you really wanted to see him kind of go House of Fire.
And then coming into the season, you figured his style is going to be coupled with Christian McCaffrey, who is arguably one of the best running backs in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Except Christian McCaffrey has now been bitten by the injury bug.
Yeah.
Gone for 4 weeks, back for a week, gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
without him there, now Bridgewater himself is banged up.
Yeah, so, you hope that they might be a little better than they are. It's not their fault.
I legitimately thought they would be. I thought they would be sitting. I kind of thought that them and the Buccaneers would be flip-flopped.
Yeah.
Just shows how the football gods don't care about what we think.
Well, that's it. Maybe if they can get healthy, they'll be better next year.
Right. I think they definitely will be, but it's the fact of they have to survive the rest of this year.
Yeah, I think this year is kind of a scrap for them. I mean,
I think so. I mean, I don't think they're going to tank because
no.
I just don't think that's their style, but they're still going to be ending up with probably a top 15 draft pick.
Well, that's it. I just, in terms of, they were almost never going to beat the Saints anyway.
No.
The fact that the Buccaneers have been decent only just sort of pushes them back even one more. So, just, it doesn't really matter if they win even all the rest of their games at this point, really.
No, at this point it really doesn't.
They're kind of, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And at this point, rest up, get McCaffrey healthy, get Bridgewater healthy, and maybe next year there'll be a wrecking ball.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing. If they can get Christian McCaffrey and Teddy Bridgewater both back firing on all cylinders, that could be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, but if they rush them back now to try and get what, at this point seems like might be lucky to be an 8-8.
Yeah, it's just...
And they get injured again?
Exactly, and what happens if it's something terrible that, you're not going to come back from? And that.
Well, that's it. What happens if it's really serious this time for McCaffrey? He's been in and out so many times.
Right, at this point, look, relegate ourselves to maybe a 6-10 season.
Yeah.
Get a draft pick in the top 15, which is probably where that would end up landing them.
Mm-hmm.
Get somebody that we're going to need. Let's make sure that, McCaffrey stays healthy. Let's make sure that Bridgewater stays healthy. And really put it together for a good, solid run next year. And
exactly.
So, honestly, that wouldn't surprise me to see that's exactly what they do, and they end up at 5-11, 6-10, maybe even 7-9, but still get that kind of mid-first round draft pick and really start to rebuild for the future.
Exactly. All right, bumping up.
Yeah, to the Buccaneers. I'm shocked they're sitting at 7-4. I'm not even going to lie, because I thought that Brady would just be a lot worse at adapting to the Bruce Arians system than he is. But the fact is, he's still Tom Brady. He's still a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But he's out of his element. And we were talking about this actually before we started recording. He's really out of his comfort zone, and that's why that article you sent me earlier, Bruce Arians has come out and said he's just not doing it.
Yeah. Arians has always been pretty outspoken about calling out his own players if he feels, he should.
Yeah, and it's not like, he was calling Tom Brady an asshole. It's like, look, he's not hitting the deep balls. The dude's, 43?
Yeah.
He hasn't hit a deep ball in probably the last 5 years.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's the sort of the best teams all seem to use that short pass system.
Yeah, the dink and dunk, because it's effective, it's very time efficient,
and it's good when your quarterback is old.
Exactly, you don't need to have a young stud quarterback to pull it off. You need a guy who can read the field and make the smart throw.
So the Saints use it.
Yeah, the Saints use it. The Steelers are using it.
Yeah.
A lot of
Patriots used it.
Yeah, a lot of the teams with the elderly quarterbacks or the less than mobile quarterbacks, as it were, are adopting this system, and it really lends well to the older pocket style quarterback.
Yeah,
because being a pocket style quarterback versus a running quarterback, you're a lot more used to scanning the field and really looking at the routes and seeing where to check down to.
Yeah,
he's just that a Tom Brady is very good at, or a Drew Brees is very good at.
Yeah, but when you ask them to hold on to the ball for 4, 5, 6 seconds and
run around to give your receiver time to break free and then air it out for 50 yards, that's not in a lot of these guys' wheelhouses anymore.
Yeah. You're seeing him, really struggling the past few games, throwing a lot more interceptions than he ever has, taking a lot of sacks, being pressured a lot.
He's been on the ground a hell of a lot this year. We looked it up. In addition to the sacks, he's been on the ground like almost 40 times.
Yeah, it's not a... I think, it was always going to be a bad match between them, and it's turning out that it may be like the team is kind of starting to melt down a little bit.
I think so, and it's really becoming apparent that they kind of are.
Just in the past sort of 2 weeks, Arians has called out AB for not making the catches and Tom Brady for not making the throws.
All right, well, let's deal with that elephant in the room. The fact that they went out of their way and just showed how, much Bruce Arians actually caves and how much stroke he has in that organization.
Yeah, that felt like maybe a call from up high.
Oh, that was definitely a call from up high or Tom Brady.
Because he'd been clear earlier in the season that he would not accept.
Yeah, he was very adamant. He said, "I've been on that ride before, ain't happening again." Shows how much stroke you have.
Overall, it seems like they've kind of chased all the trends. I mean, they went after Brady, then they went after Gronk, then they went after AB.
And you don't think it's odd that the general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now is the same guy that signed Tom Brady to the Patriots?
Well, that's it. I mean, it's clear that they desperately want to be the Patriots, but these guys are either past their prime or just...
not as good, because the thing about the Patriots and why it worked so well for so long is, one, they kept a lot of their players from year to year.
Mm.
You had a really, really intelligent coach.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about Bill Belichick, but the fact of the matter is he's one of the smartest coaches in football.
Well, that's it,
And then also you got to factor in, he doesn't have the same weapons around him. He doesn't have the myriad of guys who can catch a football easily.
No, but I mean, that's sort of on the organization, right? Like, this is why you don't chase these trends.
Yeah, and you get Gronkowski, who just out of the blue up and retired, dropped a pile of weight, started shilling Tide Pods, and somehow apparently cured his own CTE.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, he's starting to kind of appear on some lists I've seen on sites saying that it was a bad acquisition. They could have done something better. It was a terrible
acquisition, and he has no business being back in the NFL. I'll go on record as saying it.
Yeah, for the money that they're paying him, for the roster space that he's taking up, they could have gotten a young, healthy guy who might be playing at a better level.
Yeah, so he's just basically been nothing short of useless.
But it was great PR, right? Like they were actually putting out the YouTube videos of Tom and Gronk, sitting by the the kiddie pool.
It was so pathetic. Like,
yeah, it was a total PR move. And then going after AB, which I don't think was so much a PR move because it's actually bad PR, but just in a way trendy. Like, they've been talking for weeks about, who's going to take AB now that his suspension is up.
Yeah, exactly. And there were a slew of teams, 3 in particular, with direct experience with him that wanted nothing to do with him.
And the joke now is that the Seahawks might have been playing 4D chess and bluffed the Buccaneers into basically taking this cancer, this poison.
Well, and that's what it is. If anybody says Antonio Brown is anything other than a locker room cancer, is, in my opinion, wrong.
Yeah, he's proved it 3 times now.
At least he hasn't accused Bruce Arians of being a racist or taking a swing at Tom Brady yet. But he already beat up that security camera.
No, exactly. So he hasn't changed, and anybody who isn't riding the coattails knew he was not going to change.
Yeah, but for some reason, Tom Brady is convinced that he can make it work. Yeah, it worked real well for that one game he threw to him in New England.
Well, exactly. So just, I don't know, like, the Buccaneers are floundering, trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah, and the fact that
they're sort of leather-facing it, wearing other organizations, skin.
Yeah, they're trying to just get the hand-me-downs from the top grade. And the fact that, they really don't, God, now that you said that, that's all I can think about. They really don't have their own identity, do they?
No, they're doing what, unfortunately, a lot of floundering teams do, and they see guys, going into free agency or being cut from these top-tier teams, and they just grab them with no real thinking of whether this guy will actually fit the system that you're building.
Well, that's what it is. Not only will they fit the system, but will they fit with the other players in the system?
Exactly. It's just, this is a player from a really good team. Let's grab him.
Yeah. The Raiders tried to do that with Brown, and look at the havoc he caused never actually playing for them.
Yeah, the Jets tried to do it with Le'Veon Bell, and Bell didn't cause problems, but they didn't know how to use him, so it was a totally
that's what it
wasted...
is. Like, if you had a system that could use him properly, he is a very good running back.
Yeah, but they totally wasted him, and they wasted
just like they're wasting Frank Gore. That's the Jets for you.
So yeah, they're just sort of grasping at all these other sort of bits and pieces.
Yeah, and basically you're trying to take driftwood and build a mansion.
Yep.
Speaking of that, let's move up to their, the division leader and actually conference leader. They have the best record in the NFC of the Saints. As we record this, sitting at 8-2, coming off of a 7-game win streak, including Taysom Hill's debut, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Highly impressive, 2 rushing touchdowns. And it made me think, like, damn, maybe there's something to this. They bypass Winston. I mean, and we've talked about him. If somebody could get him to settle down a little and become a little more focused, that guy could be a record breaker.
Yeah.
But the fact remains is he's all over the place. I don't think he's really matured into himself yet.
Clearly, there was some, Sean Payton had some concerns about that, and especially with the, that division being so close right now, I guess he felt they just could not take the chance of starting to drop games if he started to throw interceptions.
Well, and what's that say about you? The fact that, what was it, last year, whenever he had the 30 plus picks, he also had, 5,100 passing yards?
Yeah, I think so.
And the fact that the team is wanting to start an untested player over you.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
should tell you all you need to know about where you stand.
I mean, I think Jameis could definitely be something special, and I think maybe if the division wasn't so close, I think he may well have started him, but just
I think so, but the fact that not only like within the division you have Tampa Bay that's only 2 games back, but the fact that there's a slew of other teams all sitting there with 7 wins.
they really can't afford to almost drop even one game right
No,
now.
at this point, especially with Breeze injured for God
Yeah,
knows how long after the rib injury.
well, that's it, and they still have to play the Chiefs.
Yeah,
So even though the team sort of might be able to carry beyond problematic quarter play against teams like the Falcons or the Eagles, it's not going to work against the Chiefs. That's a game that they're almost guaranteed to lose. I mean, even if they had Drew, I think they would struggle in that game.
I think so. And, if they somehow get past the Chiefs, they get into the playoffs, what happens if they get to the Super Bowl and have to face the Chiefs again, or the Steelers, or the Bills, somebody with a high-powered offense?
Yeah, so I think that might be why, I think it's just too hot right now for to take a chance on Jameis.
I think so, and obviously, at least in the first game, Sean Payton proved that he was right.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints won that game. I know it was against the Falcons, but they won 24-9. And
Yeah,
again,
I mean,
we talked about it before. The Falcons can put up 39 points in a game.
right, and that was saying something that with a guy who was starting his first NFL game at quarterback to win such a decisive victory over a team that very easily can blow up and hit 30, 40 points, to hold them to 9 and basically do whatever the hell you wanted with them the entirety of the game.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot about the way the Saints are run as a team.
Yeah, so I knew they would lead the division, but I'm glad to see that it seems to be continuing on. I mean, obviously that was just the first game. They're playing the Broncos. So again, that's a game that, they really should win, even if Taysom maybe doesn't play great.
Right.
As long as he plays okay.
Well, and that's what I've always heard. You don't have to be great. Sometimes you just have to be nominal.
Exactly. As long as he doesn't turn it over like 2-3 times, I think the team will hold it. The Broncos are just bad enough that they shouldn't be too much of a threat.
Well, and let's since we've been kind of hitting on some of the big running backs, you can't escape Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I mean, because he's still there, there's hope.
Yeah, and he is not slowing down. In fact, he seems to be getting better.
Yeah.
And you look at the realm of current running backs in the NFL, you would have to put Alvin Kamara up in the upper echelon with a Derrick Henry type. Even, I don't know, Nick Chubb I think is kind of getting up there, but there really aren't that many high-powered running backs in the game right now, it seems like.
I mean, it's scary them not having Drew anymore and potentially not having Drew for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, and potentially not having him forever again.
Well, I mean, there's that. I mean, I can see him coming back, but just maybe not. There's not that much left of the regular season.
No, the fact that as we're recording this, there's going to be 6 games left of the regular season, and the fact that his rib injury was a hell of a lot worse than I thought it would be just on first examination of the hit.
Yeah, like it didn't seem that bad, and then it turns out that he's got like 11 broken or fractured ribs, a collapsed lung.
Exactly, and God knows what other damage. I think he somehow, in addition to the collapsed lung, also had like something wrong with his lung. The fact that he's no spring chicken. He's what, 41-ish?
Yeah, I think so. So he's just going to probably heal slower. That's just a fact of getting older. You don't heal as fast as you do when you're in your 20s.
Well, and it's not just that. It's the fact of ribs in general as an injury.
Yeah.
Just for your average lay person like you or I,
Mm-hmm.
if we were to even bruise ribs, it takes several weeks to heal.
Well, that's it, so...
Because it's one of those injuries, like, you can't immobilize it.
Nope.
So you're constantly having to breathe and move and, reaching to get something off the table, you're moving your ribs and don't even realize it. Unless you have a cracked rib. Then you realize it.
Well, that's it, so I'm kind of... I know he wants to come back. He's a tough SOB, but at this point, I'm just kind of assuming you would be lucky for him to come back for the regular season.
I think at this point you'd be lucky to have him back for the regular season.
I think maybe as long as the team plays all right, the better situation is, even if he insists he's feeling all right, not to allow him back hold him for the playoffs.
Exactly. Get him back on the active roster so at least he'll be eligible for the playoffs.
But I mean, if they're doing all right, and the other teams in the NFC kind of fall back, then, maybe the last couple of games against the Vikings and the Panthers won't matter.
Right, as long as they can shore up a playoff spot.
They play the Broncos, they should win that. They play the Falcons again. I mean, hopefully they'll win that. The Eagles, they should absolutely win that game.
Oh, yeah. On paper, absolutely. But as this season...
So there's, 3 more games they should win. Then they hit the wall of the Chiefs, and that's one that I'm just going to say I think they'll lose.
Very good chance they will, but you never know. But let's just say this, I wouldn't be surprised.
But if they win the next 3, maybe that would give them enough of a buffer that, it doesn't really matter.
Right. If they can basically win 3 out of their next 4, I think they'll be in good shape for maybe having to realize they don't have Drew for the rest of the regular season.
Well, that's it, because, I mean, if they drop some of these upcoming games, then they may feel the need to rush him back. I mean, if Taysom can't do it, and if Jameis can't do it, they may feel that they have to rush Drew back for the last game or 2, to hold on to.
I think as of right now, it doesn't look like they're going to have that issue, because I think that even if they stick with Taysom Hill the rest of the run, I think they'd be okay.
Yeah, and I certainly hope so. But yeah, so that's my sort of feelings. The Saints are my number sort of 2. I mean, they're my second sort of favored team. I love Drew.
They're your NFC team, to be sure.
Exactly. So I was, so upset, to hear that Drew was so injured.
Yeah, because I saw the hit. I did not think it was that bad.
It's kind of the situation with the Colts where this may be his last year.
Very much so. You don't want it to end like that.
No, you desperately want him to get that second Super Bowl. He's such a good quarterback. You sure as hell want him to get it more than Brady and the Buccaneers. So,
even if he doesn't,
it's like,
you just don't want his career to end on the injured reserve list.
No, you definitely don't, but because of course, we talked about, AFC Championship, but if I had my druthers of picking the actual Super Bowl, it would be Steelers versus Saints.
Well, actually, yeah, you're jumping a little ahead, because we're going to wrap this one up because we covered the NFC. So I'm going to pose the same question to you we did at the end of the AFC episode. Right now, not ideal, but what do you think the actual NFC Championship could be?
I think the Saints will hold on to it. I mean, I hope so.
Okay, and who are they playing?
I think it might be the Rams.
Honestly, I think that could be a really fascinating game, Rams versus Saints.
I think the Buccaneers are struggling. I think they might start to fall back. The Seahawks are really struggling.
Yeah.
So I think the Rams may take that division.
Yeah, you definitely have to factor in the Rams, and that's not something I thought we'd be saying at this point.
I mean, the Packers will win their division, but I think the Rams are maybe a better team than the Packers.
I think, and more consistent. So we have that, and you said if you could pick your 2020 dream Super Bowl, it would be Steelers-Saints?
Yeah, because it would be a Super Bowl that I could enjoy either way, which I've never had. You've always had a team you want to win and a team you don't want to win, and that makes it really stressful to watch.
Well, exactly, and as you've seen from the Steelers trap games this year, football is kind of a contact sport for watching. Yeah,
Steelers-Saints, I would be happy with either team. I mean, obviously, the Steelers are my favorite team, but I wouldn't be at all angry if Drew got to win and retire on a high note.
Exactly, and then, you get the battle of the old guard quarterbacks, between Ben Roethlisberger and Drew Brees. You'd be looking at about 734 years of NFL experience.
Well, exactly, so that would be my, thing.
I think it could be cool.
Plus, it keeps Brady out of the Super Bowl, and I think that would be awesome.
Well, exactly. And, we're going to remember this, and we'll see come February what happens. So that wraps it up for our NFL three-quarter season review. Again, we will have later on as the playoffs approach, or maybe even into the playoffs, our tinfoil hat episode. We won't forget what we're going to talk about, so bear with us on that one because it is quite fascinating.
Yes.
So as we close this one up, closing thoughts on football as a whole, the NFC, AFC, whatever?
I think I've said all I need to say.
You've said your piece?
Yep.
All right, well, then that's going to do it here for the Carnival. Keep on watching that football. Stay safe, stay healthy. Stay in touch with your loved ones. Support small businesses. You got anything else? Any other tropes you want to throw out there?
Yeah, no, I think you've done enough.
Okay, well, there you go. So, for the Carnival, I'm Zach.
I'm right.
This was football, and we will see you guys next week.